The vast expanse of space shimmered with stars, undisturbed, until the arrival of the alien Armada. Hundreds of warships, each massive and bristling with terrifying weaponry, warped into position above Earth. The Pack, an alien species known for their ruthless conquests, had come to finish what they started. Their emperor, Orcs, a towering, battle-scarred figure, stood on the bridge of the largest ship, looking at the small fleet of human vessels below. He sneered, baring his razor-sharp fangs. "Is this the defense of the mighty Earth? Just a handful of ships?" His deep voice echoed throughout the bridge, causing his subordinates to chuckle nervously. Commander Lovar, a junior officer of the Pack, hesitated. "Emperor, perhaps these humans err." Silence. Zork snarled. "They are nothing. Their ships are toys, and we will crush them without mercy." Far below, the United Earth Defense Council watched the Armada approach. The Pack had made their message clear. Earth had 24 hours to surrender, or they would lay waste to the planet. The transmission had shown children being tortured, families torn apart. Humanity's leaders knew this wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. The Pack had done this to countless other worlds. General Marcus Hale, a grizzled veteran with steel-gray eyes, stood in front of the council. "We know what we're up against. They outnumber us, their technology is superior, and their brutality knows no bounds. But make no mistake, they will not find Earth easy prey." "But our fleet is tiny in comparison," one council member protested. "We can't possibly hold them off." Hale's gaze hardened. "We don't need to hold them off. We just need to make them regret ever thinking humanity was weak." The human fleet, while small, was a force of pure ingenuity and desperation. On board the flagship Resolute Captain Sarah Kincaid stood tall, her heart pounding as she gazed at the massive Pack warships in the distance. Her ship, like the others in Earth's defense force, was equipped with the latest human technology. Though crude compared to the Pack's sleek vessels, it was built for one purpose: survival. "Captain," her tactical officer called out, "the Pack are charging their weapons." Kincaid's hands clenched into fists. "They think we're weak because we're small, because we don't have their numbers. But they've underestimated us. Let's show them what humans are made of." As the Pack fleet moved into position to attack, the human ships suddenly split apart, scattering in a dazzling display of coordination. The alien commanders, unused to such tactics, hesitated. The Resolute and its sister ships weaved in and out of asteroid fields, using the terrain to their advantage. "Fire the EMP cannons," Kincaid shouted. The Resolute unleashed a blast of electromagnetic energy that surged through space, hitting the lead Pack vessel. The enemy ship shuddered and went dark, its systems fried. The Pack commander on board the stricken ship screamed in frustration as his controls went dead. "Direct hit," Kincaid's tactical officer exclaimed, but there was no time to celebrate. The Pack retaliated, their ships swarming like angry hornets. Beams of energy lanced through space, cutting through 2 human frigates. The battle was far from over. Amid the chaos, Commander Eli Vega of the Sentinel led a strike team on a daring mission. His goal was simple, but nearly impossible: board one of the Pack's capital ships and sabotage their systems from within. "How's that for an insane plan?" one of his teammates joked nervously as they hurtled through space in their drop pods, the enemy ship looming closer. Vega, ever the optimist, grinned. "If they think they can bully us, they're in for a surprise." Their pods slammed into the hull of the Pack ship, and in an instant they were inside, cutting through metal and slipping into the heart of the beast. The corridors were dark and filled with the smell of burning ozone. Vega's heart raced, but his resolve was unshakable. The Pack soldiers inside were caught off guard. Vega's team moved quickly, taking out guards and planting explosives in key systems. As alarms blared, Vega knew their time was limited. The Pack would send reinforcements any second. "Vega, we've got hostiles incoming," one of his soldiers called out. "Hold them off," Vega barked, setting the last charge. "We're almost done here." The walls shook as the explosives detonated, sending shockwaves through the massive vessel. Vega's team scrambled to their escape pods just as the ship's reactor began to overload. "Let's go," Vega shouted, leaping into his pod and launching back toward Earth's fleet. Behind them, the pack ship erupted in a ball of fire, debris scattering across space. Admiral Noah Carter watched the explosion from the bridge of his command ship, the Titan Asterisk. His face was a mask of grim determination. "Good work, Vega," he muttered to himself. The pack might have had the numbers, but humanity had something stronger: willpower. Carter's voice echoed through the fleet as he gave the final order. "All ships, converge on the enemy flagship. This is our moment." As the human fleet charged, the pack were momentarily stunned by the ferocity of the attack. The Titan Asterisk led the charge, its railguns pounding the pack's defenses. Inside the enemy flagship, Emperor Zorks watched in disbelief as his fleet faltered. "Impossible," he growled. "They are but insects. Crush them." But his orders came too late. The human fleet, though small, struck with precision and fury. Explosions ripped through the pack's armada as ship after ship was torn apart by human ingenuity. Zorks' own ship rocked violently as the Titan Asterisk opened fire. As the battle raged on, the pack fleet began to falter. The human ships, though outnumbered, moved like nimble predators, dodging the pack's heavy weaponry and delivering precise, devastating strikes. Captain Sarah Kincaid felt the shift. The pack, once so sure of their victory, were beginning to hesitate, their rigid tactics proving no match for human improvisation. "Captain, our sensors show a major energy build-up on the pack's flagship," her tactical officer warned. Kincaid's jaw tightened. "They're going to make a last stand." On the bridge of the Titan Asterisk, Admiral Carter received the same report. "They're going to fire their main cannon. If that hits Earth..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The pack flagship's superweapon could obliterate entire cities, perhaps even continents, with a single shot. The stakes had never been higher. "Concentrate all firepower on that ship," Carter ordered, his voice steady. "We take them down now, or we lose everything." The Titan Asterisk and the remaining human vessels turned their full might on the pack's flagship. Railguns, plasma cannons, and missile barrages streaked through the void, slamming into the enemy's shields. The pack ship shuddered, its shields flickering under the relentless assault. Inside the enemy flagship, Emperor Zorks growled in frustration. "Fire the cannon," he roared. "Fire it now." But the human fleet wasn't giving them the time. On board the Sentinel Asterisk, Commander Eli Vega was already formulating a new plan. "We need to take that cannon offline. It's our only chance." His strike team, battered but unbroken, prepared for another boarding action. They had done it once. They could do it again. Vega's pod shot toward the pack flagship, weaving through the chaotic battlefield. As they breached the hull, Vega and his team moved with deadly efficiency, cutting their way into the ship's bowels. "Get to the cannon control room," Vega ordered. Time was running out. Vega's team fought their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the pack's flagship. The alien soldiers, enraged by the damage inflicted on their fleet, fought savagely to defend their ship. But Vega's team pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that millions of lives on Earth depended on their success. "We're close," Vega said, his breath heavy. They reached the control room just as the pack engineers were preparing to fire the cannon. Without hesitation, Vega's team opened fire, taking out the pack operators. Alarms blared throughout the ship, signaling that the cannon was disabled. Vega glanced at the display. "We've bought Earth some time, but we're not done yet. We need to overload this reactor and bring this whole ship down." As his team set the charges, the pack soldiers poured into the room. The fighting was brutal, and Vega knew they wouldn't all make it out. He looked at his team, at the brave men and women who had followed him into the heart of the enemy's most fearsome weapon, and felt a pain of guilt. But there was no other way. "Get to the escape pods," Vega ordered. "I'll finish the job." "No way, Commander," one of his soldiers protested. "We're in this together." Vega shook his head. "Someone has to stay behind and make sure this thing blows." The soldier hesitated, but then nodded grimly. One by one, the rest of the team made their way to the pods, leaving Vega alone. As the last pod launched, Vega placed his hand on the detonator. He thought of his home, of the people he had sworn to protect, and felt at peace. The pack soldiers stormed into the room just as Vega pressed the button. The explosion rocked the ship, and moments later, the pack flagship erupted in a blinding flash of light, torn apart from within. The shockwave from the destruction of the pack flagship rippled through space, igniting an awe-inspiring display of debris and energy as the massive alien warship disintegrated. Clouds of metallic shards and twisted wreckage spread in all directions, a reminder of the titanic battle that had just been fought. On board the Resolute, Captain Kincaid stood silently, her eyes fixed on the screen as the colossal hulk of the flagship collapsed upon itself, consumed by flames. "They did it," she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of emotions too complex to fully understand. Pride surged through her, a fierce satisfaction at the defeat of the pack, tempered by the deep sorrow of what it had cost. Vega did it. Commander Eli Vega, a friend, a hero, gone now. His sacrifice had been the tipping point in a battle that many thought humanity would lose. His final act, piloting a strike team directly into the heart of the pack flagship, had been a desperate but necessary gamble. The ship's destruction had severed the head of the pack's invasion force and changed the tide of the war in an instant. In the void of space, the remaining pack warships faltered. The once fearsome fleet, which had swept across entire star systems, now found itself leaderless, fragmented, and in complete disarray. Their command structure had relied on the absolute authority and terrifying presence of Emperor Orcs. With him gone, their unity crumbled. Ships drifted aimlessly, their coordinated strikes devolving into chaos. The human fleet, bruised and battered but still standing, saw their chance. A coordinated pursuit began as Admiral Carter gave the order to press the attack. Earth's warships, though severely damaged, surged forward like a tidal wave, chasing down as many fleeing pack vessels as possible. Laser fire and missiles filled the vacuum of space, and the once dominating pack fleet found themselves overwhelmed, their sleek ships falling one after another. On Earth, the people watched with bated breath as the battle was broadcast on screens across cities and towns. Streets were lined with civilians, soldiers, and families, all gazing upward, their hearts in their throats as humanity's final push unfolded. Each destroyed pack ship brought cheers and roars of celebration, and for the first time in years, the people could feel something they had almost forgotten: hope. Against all odds, humanity had fought back and won. Admiral Carter's voice broke the tension across the fleet, calm yet filled with the quiet triumph of victory hard-earned. His message spread to every ship and every colony. All ships stand down. We've won. The silence that followed was profound. For the crews of the surviving ships, the relief was immediate but bittersweet. There was no explosion of cheers on the bridge of the Titan, where Admiral Carter stood. His hands gripped the railing tightly, his eyes heavy with the memory of those who had given everything to reach this moment. He had fought alongside them, known their names, their faces, and now many of them were gone. The cost of this victory weighed heavily on his shoulders, as it did on every surviving member of the human fleet. The crew had lost friends, commanders, mentors, people who had stood by them through every battle. They knew that while they had won the war, the scars left by their losses would be felt for generations. As the human fleet made its way back to Earth, limping from battle but with heads held high, news of the victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had once cowered in fear of the pack heard whispers of humanity's triumph. The pack, the most feared predators in the galaxy, had been brought low by a species they had deemed insignificant, weak, a species they had expected to crush without resistance. Now, the galaxy knew better. In distant systems, governments and planetary leaders watched with newfound respect and wariness. Humanity had proven something far greater than their military might. They had shown their spirit, their unyielding resilience, and their capacity to rise when all seemed lost. They had become more than survivors. They had become legends. When the human fleet finally re-entered Earth's atmosphere, they were greeted with the cheers of billions. The once terrifying sight of burning ships streaking across the sky was now a symbol of survival and triumph. Entire cities erupted in celebration as the battered heroes of humanity returned home. Soldiers were embraced by their families, strangers hugged in the streets, and tears flowed freely as humanity reveled in their hard-won victory. But among the celebration, there was a quiet reverence. Memorials were erected, and the names of the fallen were spoken with respect. Eli Viva's name was at the top of every list, his heroic final act immortalized in stories that would be told for centuries. He, like so many others, had paid the ultimate price, and though he would never return, his legacy would live on forever. Admiral Carter stood with Captain Kincaid on the observation deck of the Titan, looking out at Earth's surface below. The world was healing, slowly but surely. Reconstruction efforts had already begun in cities destroyed by the invasion, and aid was pouring in from every corner of the globe. Humanity was united in a way it hadn't been for centuries, brought together by the common goal of survival and the shared grief of their losses. "We made it," Kincaid said, her voice soft. "But it feels different than I thought it would." Carter nodded. "Victory isn't always as sweet as we imagine it to be. We've lost a lot." "Do you think it's over?" she asked, her gaze distant, watching the stars. Carter was silent for a long moment. "It's not over. It's never over. The pack might be defeated, but the galaxy is vast, and there are other threats out there. We've shown we can stand, but now we have to prove we can hold our ground." Kincaid turned to him, a determined glint in her eyes. "We will." Humanity had faced the darkness of the unknown and emerged victorious. They had fought not just for survival, but for the right to carve out their place among the stars. No longer the prey, they had proven they could fight back. And though the war with the pack was over, humanity's journey was just beginning. As Earth's skies cleared and the fires of war dimmed, humanity set their sights on the stars. They had fought, sacrificed, and bled, but now they would build, they would explore, they would thrive, and the galaxy would never forget the day humanity rose from the ashes of war, stronger and more determined than ever. Their future was no longer a question of survival. It was a question of destiny. The war with the pack was over, but the echoes of the final battle reverberated across the stars. In the months that followed, humanity's victory over the galaxy's most feared predator rippled through civilizations far and wide, reaching distant worlds where the name human had once been a curiosity at best and an afterthought at worst. Now that name held weight. It commanded respect. The pack had been the scourge of countless systems, a force so feared that entire planets had surrendered before a single shot was fired. But the humans, the species they had underestimated, dismissed as weak, insignificant, even prey, had done the impossible. They had not only survived, but had triumphed. On Earth, the scars of the invasion were still visible. Cities that had been reduced to rubble during the pack's relentless assault were being rebuilt, their skeletal frames reminders of both the cost and the resilience of the human race. Memorials rose where craters had once scared the land, honoring those who had fallen. Every name etched into the cold stone was a symbol of sacrifice, a reminder of the price of freedom. In the months following the war, Captain Kincaid often found herself walking through one of these memorial parks in what had once been New York City. The park stretched for miles, a sea of names carved into smooth black marble, each representing a life lost in the defense of Earth. She could still feel the weight of her responsibilities as she walked the rows, stopping occasionally to place her hand on a name, to whisper a quiet thanks. There were so many names, too many, but in their sacrifice they had given humanity something priceless, hope for the future. Kincaid had been offered promotions, medals, and honors for her service, but none of them mattered. She had lost friends, comrades, people she had fought beside for years. The victory, while triumphant, came with a burden of memory. She had survived, but so many others had not. Every time she looked at her reflection in a polished surface, she saw the faces of those who had fallen. Admiral Carter, too, carried the weight of the war. He had been the architect of humanity's defense, the strategist who had outmaneuvered a vastly superior enemy. But he was not the same man who had begun the war. His hair was grayer now, his eyes more tired, more haunted. The burden of command had left deep lines in his face, carved by years of sleepless nights, tough decisions, and the knowledge that every victory came with a cost. Carter rarely spoke of the battle anymore, preferring to focus on the future. His office aboard the Titan had become more of a war room for rebuilding than for war itself. He had become the de facto leader of humanity's efforts to rebuild, not just Earth, but their standing in the galaxy. The war had revealed humanity's potential, but it had also left them vulnerable. The Pack may have been defeated, but the galaxy was filled with other species, other threats. The delicate balance of power had shifted, and now humanity had to carve out its place in the new order. The victory had given humanity a rare opportunity, a chance to forge alliances with species that had once viewed them as inconsequential. Envoys from distant systems began arriving at Earth, offering partnerships, trade agreements, and even military pacts. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. One of the most surprising outcomes of the war was the reaction from the remnants of the Pack. Without Emperor's Orcs to unite them, the Pack had fractured into smaller, disorganized factions. Some fled to the fringes of known space, while others sought peace, their warlike instincts shattered by the overwhelming defeat. A delegation from one such faction arrived at Earth, their ships hovering in orbit, waiting for permission to land. They came not as conquerors, but as survivors, seeking asylum and perhaps redemption. It was a surreal moment for humanity. The Pack, who had once terrorized their worlds, now stood before them as supplicants. Many humans were understandably skeptical, even hostile. But Carter and Kincaid, understanding the weight of this moment in history, chose to extend a cautious hand of mercy. These former enemies would never be trusted fully, but humanity's strength came from its capacity to evolve, to learn, to grow. And in this new galaxy, old grudges would only hold them back. The rebuilding process was slow but steady. Earth was not the only world in need of reconstruction. The colonies, stretched across distant stars, had been hit hard by the Pack's reach. But with the Pack no longer a threat, resources once devoted to defense could now be used to rebuild shattered lives and cities. Scientists and engineers from across the human colonies worked around the clock to restore what had been lost, and in many cases, to improve upon it. Advances made during the war had accelerated humanity's technological development. The fusion of human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology from captured Pack ships had resulted in breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel, energy generation, and medical science. Diseases once thought incurable were now being eradicated. The average lifespan increased. The stars, once distant and unreachable, were now within humanity's grasp. But even as humanity stood on the cusp of a new era, the memory of the war lingered. It was felt in the hushed conversations in military circles, in the political debates about how far humanity should extend its influence, and in the quiet moments of reflection shared by those who had survived. Kincaid, often lost in her own thoughts, would stare out at the night sky from her apartment on one of the new orbital platforms. The stars, so distant and mysterious, now felt closer, more familiar. The galaxy was vast, and while humanity had proven their strength, they were still just one player in an unfolding drama that stretched far beyond their understanding. The question that remained was not whether humanity could survive, but how they would shape their future. Would they become conquerors like the Pack? Or would they strive for something more, to build a future of cooperation, exploration, and unity? As Carter once said, "It's never over. The battles may have ended, but the journey was just beginning." Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through domination, but through resilience, creativity, and an unbreakable will to thrive. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and with it came the promise of a future that, for the first time, was humanity's to shape. The stars were no longer a mystery. They were a frontier. And as Kincaid looked out at that endless expanse, she knew that humanity's greatest adventures were yet to come. This was not the end. It was only the beginning.